bring greetings from the United Nations and express our appreciation for the opportunity to be able to make a presentation here today. Ghana is one of the most progressive democracies, certainly in Africa, and arguably in the world. That this weighty issue is receiving this careful, deliberate, and inclusive consideration by the Parliament is an additional feather in Ghana's cap. The extent to which all those with a stake in this matter are given space to air their views in a collegial manner is both remarkable and admirable. We are gladdened that this has set the tone. Within the context of very able other Ghanaians making presentations, which we are also eminently proud of, all of them, the presentation from the UN focused on the following. One, our role as repository and custodian of international laws and treaty bodies, a number of which Ghana is signatory to. Please keep the presentation where it is. I'm not here recording. Go back to the cover slide. Our accumulated knowledge and evidence from a global footprint and network of UN agencies. In Ghana, there are 32 agencies, 21 of which have and another 11 who have programs here. And our mandate to promote sustainable, inclusive development that leaves no one behind, as ensconced through the SDGs and supporting Ghana to meet its treaty obligations. Our presentation is also mindful of the fact of Ghana's sovereign rights, self-determination on the one hand. But alongside that, Ghana's active and legitimate membership, ownership, and support for global consensus through the United Nations, as evidenced by its signature to a raft of international laws and treaty bodies, and its membership, currently and for the third time, on the UN Security Council. It should also be noted that Ghana's president serves as co-chair of the UN SDG Advocates and Champions. Our presentation and submission was and remains tagged as advisory based on this discussion, based on all the evidence and considering the full weight of all the submissions here that promote, protect, and safeguard human rights and promote a culture of non-discrimination, which the Global Committee of Nations stands for, through the resolutions agreed at the UN, and mindful too of Ghana's place positive in the world and its own stated and laudable ambition to protect and promote the rights of all its citizens and its desire to take its rightful place in the Global Committee of Nations, not just on paper, but in practice. We reiterate, as we did in our submission, our offer to provide additional expert advice and support to this honorable House as it deems fit to assist in the decision-making on this weighty matter, and indeed have experts available online now, should this be deemed helpful. I will summarize our submission now, which includes a detailed submission which we made, as well as an annex of the views of the 10 independent expert mandate holders earlier presented to the government of Ghana, according to agreed UN protocols of which and to which Ghana has cooperated in the past. I will now turn my attention to the actual presentation itself. You may now move the slides, please. So this actually sets out the basis upon which we are engaged in this conversation. Of course, Ghana's constitution enshrines commitment to respect for international law, treaty obligations, and adherence to the principles of the United Nations. Ghana has ratified the following treaties: the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the Convention on the Elimination and Discrimination Against Women, Convention on the Rights of the Child, Convention Against Torture, the Africa Charter on Human and People's Rights. And a number of provisions in the bill appear to be inconsistent with the treaties ratified by Ghana. Next slide, please. Ghana has made commitments to ensure no one is left behind in advancing towards the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the SDGs. Ghana has made commitments at the United Nations Universal Periodic Review to take steps necessary to protect lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons from violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. To take measures to fight against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. We'll also make this presentation available. The universality of human rights and the African Charter. Ghana adopted the 1993 Vienna Declaration and Program of Action on Human Rights. All human rights are universal, indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated. States have a duty, regardless of their political, economic, and cultural systems, to promote and protect all human rights and fundamental freedoms. The African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights has emphasized that the African Charter on Human and People's Rights prohibits discrimination of an individual on the basis of distinctions of any kind. The same charter has expressed alarm at acts of violence, discrimination, and other human rights violations committed on individuals because of their actual or imputed sexual orientation or gender identity, including rape, physical assaults, torture, murder, arbitrary arrest, detentions, extrajudicial killings, executions, forced disappearances, extortion, and blackmail. Next slide, please, yes. Reduction of all forms of violence, really, some of the provisions of the bill appear to encourage or coerce persons to undergo treatment, therapy, or surgery to modify their sexual orientation, gender identity, or physical intersex traits. These procedures have been condemned by the African Commission and the UN as abusive, harmful, and unethical, violating the rights of freedom from torture or ill treatment, particularly harmful to children and adolescents, leading to severe and lifelong physical and mental pain and suffering. Some of the provisions of the bill appear to depict LGBTQI persons as ill or disordered. The World Health Organization has clarified that being LGBTQ is not a disorder or a disease. LGBTQ indeed are a natural part of human diversity in all regions and cultures throughout history and across the world. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the UN have highlighted that characterizing LGBTQ as ill is the root cause of the violence and discrimination that many of them face. Some provisions of the bill that criminalizes LGBTQ persons appears to conflict with the human rights to freedom of arbitrary detention, the right to liberty and security of the persons, the right to equality before the law, equal protection of the law, and to privacy. Some provisions have been found by the African Commission and the UN to contribute to perpetuating stigma and discrimination, legitimizing prejudice, exposing people to hate crimes, police abuse, harassment, intimidation, blackmail, torture, family and community violence, and to perpetuate discriminations in health, education, employment, and housing, and negatively affect public health by impeding access to health and HIV services. I think this point was made just by the last speaker. And a lot of the detail is in presentations. Some provisions also appear to criminalize public access to information, the work of journalists, human rights organizations, teachers, and many members of the general public who support human rights in conflict with Ghana's treaty obligations on freedom of expression peaceful assembly and association. The Africa Commission and the UN state that they categorically reject arguments that restrictions to the rights of LGBTQI people are necessary to protect public morals, health, or the well-being of vulnerable people. The Africa Commission has called on states to ensure that human rights defenders are able to work in an enabling environment that is free of stigma, reprisals, or criminal prosecution as a result of their human rights activities, including on the rights of sexual minorities. And the UN Secretary General has expressed concern at reprisals and intimidation against human rights defenders for their advocacy to protect the rights of LGBTQ people. I'm almost at the end. In health and education, some of the provisions of the bill appear to restrict access of persons to health care and criminalize the work of teachers. UNAIDS and the Africa Commission on Human Rights has noted that punitive legal environments drive gay people underground and hinder the access to uptake of HIV prevention, testing, treatment and care, putting at risk Ghana's commitment to end the global HIV/AIDS pandemic and review discriminatory laws. UN member states, including Ghana, have also identified civil society, networks of people living with AIDS, with affected or most at risk of AIDS, including LGBTQ persons, community participation and community-led efforts, including community-led delivery, as key components of achieving the end to AIDS by 2030. Young people who are perceived to be LGBTQ are disproportionately affected by bullying, violence and harassment in school from classmates and teachers. The UN has found that censorship and restrictions not only violate human rights, they place young persons at greater risk of harm by encouraging discrimination and restricting access to information. As I've said earlier, the United Nations stands ready to provide any support that may be deemed useful to the Parliament of Ghana, the Government of Ghana, and any other national relevant stakeholders in the promotion and protection of human rights to all people in Ghana. And as we have stated earlier, our full submission, which is 25 pages long and contains a lot of detail and statistics which I won't repeat or present to you here, alongside that of 10 global independent experts, which has earlier been submitted and is also annexed to that document, which provides plenty of data, I think is here. Honorable members of Parliament, we do have on hand the independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity available online if you'd like to hear from him as an expert. And as we have said, we stand continued across the board. The United Nations, of which Ghana is a member and owner, Ghana is also the UN. We stand here to support in any way that we can as you take your decision in this weighty matter. Thank you very much.